Yo, what's up? This the Edge. Once again, we're on the Create Life podcast. And on this podcast, we like to focus on the 5 pillars: mindset, self-mastery, financial freedom, community networking, and I always say my favorite, lifestyle leisure, because that's the end goal. That's where everybody want to get to. And today, we have a good friend of mine that he fits into the 5 pillars. He actually fits in all 5 because he's doing what he wants to do. He's doing what he loves to do. And he's also reaching back and showing the next generation what it takes and how to get there, alongside doing things that's going to actually take him to the next level. We got my boy Rico Love right here with me. Rico,
what up?
man, appreciate you.
Yeah, man.
We always appreciate you. But I appreciate you coming on the show, putting in some work. But it's bigger than myself because, we had a encounter that I really wasn't aware of back in the days when I was rolling in that blue Bentley. Every time I talk to Rico, he always say, "Man, I remember when you came." Tell the story when you seen when I came through.
I went to FAMU, and this is around 2001, and Edge pulled up to the set. He used to come to the campus, and he pulled up in the set one day in his baby blue Bentley, and he parked on the set, and the seat. First of all, he had the diamonds I never seen before in person, and just to see the energy and to see all the women flock to him and all the everybody on the set.
Oh, don't mention the women, man. That gets you in trouble. Women get you in trouble.
No, but it was crazy how they flocked to it. I remember that moment, and I said to myself, I got to get one. So when my first car I bought was the baby blue Bentley. Because of you,
came
what I mean?
Through with the Bentley FAMU. We used to come up to FAMU. FAMU is our Florida school, so we had to come through and we had to represent. But it's all about inspiring, motivating, uplifting people. And I had no idea that I was doing it at the time. But you look back on it and you see, okay, I inspire Rico Love. I'm talking about the guy that actually making all these hits for all these top singers. That's a big deal, and I didn't know that till now.
Man. Yeah, man.
So that was pretty cool. But and going to FAMU and witnessing everything, in your younger years, and you aspire to be. Did you aspire to be this singer, producer, or what took you in that direction, and what did you go to FAMU for?
So I went to FAMU for journalism, but to be totally honest, I went to school to pass the time, because I knew I was going to make it in music. I just knew that if I wouldn't have went to school, I would have been in the streets. And the summer before I went to school, it's the first summer of I think it was freshman year, I had got robbed for 2.5 ounces of cocaine. And I said to myself,
how you get robbed, man? You slipping, man.
Slipping, man. So I said to myself, you know what? I got to really stay. This ain't for me. I'm not made for this. I'm not made for the street life. That's just not who I am. And I went to school really because I knew that if I wasn't in school, I was going to be in the streets. I knew I knew I wanted certain things for me. I wanted nice things. I wanted to live a certain way, and I believed I was going to make it in music. But I knew that if I didn't go to school, there was only one other way for me to get those things, and I knew I would have been surrounded by guys who were either underachievers or guys who overachieved in the streets. So I knew I wouldn't want to be on the side of the underachiever.
Right.
So I would have had to make a decision. So school was that for me. Now, how I started was I started rapping. Even at FAM, I used to win.
What was your rap name?
Rico Love's my name.
Rico Love.
You know what I mean? So
where does Rico Love come from?
So my grandmother lived in a building in Harlem in East River, and it was a woman who would she would see me and she would just say muy rico, because she said my skin was rich. So when I started rapping, I just kind of added that as my moniker. You know what I mean? So it was something that kind of came natural to me. And I used to always say love. Like, it's love, bro, love. Instead of love you, I say love. So that's how the name came about. But
so that's where the origin, that's where Rico Love comes from. I thought it had something to do with R&B or something.
No, and it's funny because when I first started rapping, people would always be like, why your name Rico Love and you're a rapper? Like, that's not a rapper name. Everybody used to always say that. So it's crazy. I guess fate would have it that I end up like putting out an R&B record and stuff like that. So
what type of rapper were you?
You know what? I always patterned myself behind Jay. I
So you
always
just rap.
Mason J, like Mace is one of my big brothers. He raised
It
me in the
is what it
business.
is.
Yeah,
Podcast,
yeah. Shout
Mace,
out to Mace and
Cameron, them
Cam.
boys rocking out.
But I always patted myself behind those guys because I just idolize fly shit. Like I just thought that being fly and looking good and feeling good and having that confidence and that swag, that was always the thing that I looked up to in guys. So for me, it was those guys, and that's how I kind of patterned my flow and the ideas. Well, I was really big on metaphors and saying the cool fly lines and things like that, which helped me so much as a songwriter. But again, how I started was as a rap artist at FAM, getting the opportunity to be signed to Usher and then writing a song for Usher, and it's kind of changed lanes for me and propelled me into the songwriting. Because when the artist thing didn't work out, I realized that I had a gift as a writer, so I just kept going.
So you didn't set out to be where you're at.
I did not set out to be where I'm at. What I wanted to do was music. I didn't know that music was going to take me in this direction. But that's the blessing of being able to just be free and allow the art to kind of lead you. Allow, God's plan, but obviously God's plan being first and foremost, but just trusting the experience and trusting the journey. And along the journey, when the street turn this way, you got to turn with the street. You got to, if
Make the
you
adjustment.
might want to get there this way, but if the road is closed, you have to ride around to get there. And I end up getting to a certain space as a songwriter, and it's still heights that I haven't reached and I want to reach. But I just know that as I go through this journey, I'm introduced to different ways and different avenues to get me to the ultimate space I want to be in.
So you're adaptable.
Yes, exactly.
I think in life you have to be adaptable because life's gonna bring so many unforeseen obstacles that's gonna come your way, and you're a testament to that. Your journey is a testament to that. But who were some of your musical influences? Because you say you started out as a rapper, and anybody that raps, they focus on that craft, and then you shift over to R&B. So who were some of the musical influences that you actually leaned on?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because I was always a guy who just loved music. I loved AC/DC and Def Leppard. I loved Ted Nugent. I loved Alice Cooper. I loved Marvin Gaye, Michael, Prince. I was a huge fan of Queen. Queen is one of my favorite bands of all time. Freddie Mercury, the Beatles. Abbey Road is one of my favorite albums. And then as I started, we were talking about eras, Cash Money Records, Rough Riders, Bad Boy, and Rockefeller. Those were like the Mount Everest of my childhood and my teenage years, my young adult years growing up. So I looked up to Jay, not just as an artist, but as a businessman and an executive. I looked up to Puff. I looked up to Mace. I looked up to Cash Money, Baby, Slim, watching those guys move, Russell, Andre Harrell. And musically, I had so many influences, but also as black men in business, watching these guys thrive. That's what drove me, because I wanted to be at the top. I wanted to be at the top on that Mount Rushmore with those guys. I still aspire to be in that space in some way. I don't think that it's necessarily has to be as a CEO of a record company. And I just had to reconcile with that in the past 5 years or so, and realizing everybody's not going to have a record company and have all the artists. You can develop and cultivate artists in different ways, but those musical inspirations for me are constant. Stevie Wonder is somebody I still listen to every day and study, and the art of song, the art of writing, the art of developing a great record is Stevie gives a masterclass, Michael gives a masterclass, Marvin gives a masterclass, Carly Simon, James Taylor, Bobby Blue Bland, blues, soul, B.B. King, all that.
Yeah, it seems like you're well versed. You know your history, and I think anybody that's usually successful, they kind of know their history and they kind of know what direction they want to go. And it seems like clearly you know the history of it and you know exactly where you want to go. But when you're thinking about all the success you've had, but go back to the beginning, when did you realize hey, I made it? I'm in that space to where I belong. At what point did you realize that?
Yeah, I felt like I made it when Puff called me. I think that was the first. Puff is a guy who only wants to be attached to greatness.
So he before he called you, he got to know about you.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
So where you at? Where were you at?
I was in my apartment at the La Pearl. I had a bunch of records that was hitting that radio. I was doing really well, and it was like about to be my moment. It was one of those situations where you got a bunch of hits, but you ain't got paid for them yet.
So
And
Puff, you
I
was
didn't
in New
know.
York?
I was in Miami, and I get a call. I stayed in an apartment in Aventura called La Perla, and I remember like yesterday. I got a call, and it was like he was like, "What up?" I was like, "Who this?" And he says, "Puff, nigga." And I knew it. I knew from that moment it was like certain people only want to be attached to greatness and only want to be attached to people that they see are moving and grooving. And when he hit me up, I said, all right, it's official. When I got off the phone with him, I said, it's official. 2 days later, I flew to New York. We were in the studio working, and I wrote Hello, Good Morning. And that Thanksgiving, I came. The next day was Thanksgiving. I came back to Miami, and I had Thanksgiving dinner with Puff at his house. And after that, we were inseparable for like years. You know what I mean? Locked in.
So when you and that's back in the day, and then you fast forward to the day. You know, okay, Puff's name is in the middle of a lot of controversy, and you see a lot of situations where people, you know, they're attached. They only want to be attached to greatness, but then all of a sudden they're going through things, and like Puff is going through things right now. Like, how do you feel about the people that was attached to the person or the situation, and then all of a sudden they're going through something?
Yeah.
Is how do you take that as a person that actually have a personal relationship with somebody that's going through something?
Yeah. So my love never gonna change. I believe in God's love, right? And I believe that when we're experiencing hardship, regardless of what's going on, the only thing that I can do, and the greatest thing I can do, in most times, is to be there and be loving and be concerned and be a friend. To not to get all into the weeds and everything, but at the end of the day, loving somebody who's inspired you, or loving somebody who gave you opportunities, loving somebody and caring about somebody who's only showed you love, it should never be, nobody should ever frown upon that, ever. And to shy away from paying homage and paying respect to somebody who's actually paved the way for you, I'll never stop doing that. That's just who I am. That's what I believe. Now, when you get into all the details of cases, the allegations and all that type of stuff, some things are just clearly ridiculous. Some things I don't know. I can't speak on. But what I can speak on is how I feel about the person who cared about me and gave me an opportunity, inspired me from since a child. So that's something I'll never be afraid of. If people feel a way about that, I can't do nothing about that. But I got to speak my truth when it comes to somebody who's inspired me.
No, that makes sense. You know, it's like you can't. You know, everybody have a different take on it. So I was just curious about it. I know
But
a
I
lot
also
of
know
people
that
are
when
curious
anytime
about it.
anything comes up, you also got to weed out. Anytime anybody is accused of anything, you also got to look at the gallery. You know, it's gonna be a bunch of people that say, "Oh, I could come up off this. Let me say that he did this," and then we got to stop following the internet. The internet will make you believe that more people are against you than actually for you, because the people that are against you are very loud. You know what I mean? Especially in this day and age, the people that are against you will be way louder than people that's with you. So sometimes the silence, or it seemed like silence, it's like it's not it hurts you more than the loudness.
Right.
Because so when we love somebody, we got to bring them up. Even when we not bring them up, I don't bring them up in the sense of, man, I just bring up if the truth. That's my story.
Right.
So I
It's
just bring up
your truth.
it's my truth, and that's my man.
Right.
So at the end of the day, that's what it is. You know, guys do murders and go to jail for 100 years, and we stand out and say, "Free my man," and nobody say nothing wrong about that. Nobody say, "Well, what about the family of the people he murdered?" So when your brother's going through something, you say, "Man, that's my bro," the world will try to crucify you on the internet and say, "Oh, what?" But y'all stand by homeboy who said free blah blah blah, who they know killed 17 people.
That's a cultural thing.
It's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you work with so many different artists and different styles. It's like when you get in those situations, like what's the mindset when you're going into it knowing that this person is different, this person does this person that, but you still have to be you, and you still have to bring the best out of that person. Like, what is your mindset when you're going into it, when you sit in a room with somebody like a Usher, somebody like Kelly Rowland or Beyonce or whatever? Like, how do you like differentiate, you know, the way your approach or adapt to their style to make it a hit? Because you have hits with so many people.
Yeah. You hit it right on the head when you say you still got to be you. So the greatest actors are the people who know how to be themselves under imaginary circumstances, right? So what I do as a writer is I'm being myself under an imaginary circumstance and an idea that I am Beyonce. Now, I don't know what Beyonce feels inside of her heart. All I know is that my perception of how this would make me feel. Now, how would this make me feel if I were Beyonce? A rich woman's heartbreak is different from a poor woman's heartbreak.
So you had to
You gotta study the science of it.
So you had to study them.
But also you have to figure out and pull from your own emotion. I can't dictate what she would do or what she would think because I don't know. What I do know is how this would make me feel, and then I use the circumstances that she's in. All right, I know that this would make me feel this way, and I gotta imagine if I was worth $500 million, I was married to Jay-Z, I was sold this many albums, I'm the most all-time winning Grammy Award winner of all time. How do I get in there and say the song or give the perspective in that seat as if it were me? I can't give her take because she's already given her take. I gotta imagine it for myself. So when she hears it, it's a new take, and that's what's
step into her shoes.
It's stepping into her shoes, but it's stepping in her shoes as me. Because if I step in her shoes and try to be her, she's already her. She don't need help being her. But if I give her a perspective that she never thought about, and she hears the song and say, wow, I never thought about saying it this way, but I feel like this, then that's me being myself under an imaginary circumstance. The imagination
is that a strategy of yours?
Is absolutely a strategy. I study it too. I study the science of it so deeply that Beyonce doesn't follow anybody on social media, right? But let's say it was in a person who only follows 30 people. It's a reason why a person who has 127 million or 239 million followers follows 7 people. I'm going to go and look at each one of those people they follow.
Oh, so you're going to do the background.
If it's Ricardo Tisci, if it's Tom Ford, if it's Vivienne Westwood, if it's Anna Wintour, I'm going to study those pages and I'm going to study the characteristics. If it's a certain artist, if it's a certain artist, when I say artist, I mean like a painter, a sculptor, I'm going to study and I'm going to figure out what they are into. I'm going to see what things move them and push them and the things they see on their feed every day. And then I'm going to try to figure out how to speak the language of that person that inspires them. Who's your favorite singer? Who's your favorite artist? I'm not going to study, if I'm working on Rihanna, if I'm working on Usher, I'm not going to try to make a song that Usher would sing. I'm going to make a song that Prince or Michael would sing because I know he's inspired by them. I'm going to think about Bob Fosse and his movements. I'm going to think about different people who inspire them, and I'm going to try to make the record that feels like something that they would hear and be moved by, as opposed to I can't make the next Usher record based on the last Usher record. I got to make the next Usher record based on what Usher's inspired by. So if I know that he toured this part of the world, he spent a lot of time here, then let me go and figure out what's the dialect there, what's the musical tendencies there, what are they listening to, how they moving, what's the movement, and then I'll try to create from that standpoint. It's that serious for me.
So for you, like it seems like you go a step deeper. You do your homework, and I think anybody that's great, they have certain things that they do that other people wouldn't do, but. Where did that come from? What triggered you, or who showed you that? Who inspired you to say, look, you can't look at what the artist is doing. We got to go beyond that. Who was that person, or where did that mindset, or that kind of goes into self-mastery because it's something that you're doing and everybody else is not doing.
Like being a student is something like when they say idle mind is the devil's playground. So I don't believe in just sitting around. So when I'm sitting around, if I ever am in a situation where I'm not working, then my mind has to be working. So I'm thinking of, what do I do next? And then I started coming up with things and studying people and asking questions, right? When I'm around you, what did I do all last night? I asked you a ton of questions.
Right.
What are you thinking like this? When you see an offense, when you see the defense, and then you start explaining to me, a defense has to react, the offense has to think. If I see a person thinking,
you was paying attention.
You know what I mean? Yeah, yeah. So when I ask so many questions, and the questions give me more, the questions don't just give me answers, they give me more questions.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think when people look at that, Chris Bosh is one of my best friends, and I've known this man for so many years. We talk all the time, but every time I speak to him, I got more questions, and he's got more answers. Every time me and you have been spoken since we've been linked up, I ask you questions,
and I always have an answer.
You always got to answer,
yeah.
And we always got to be want to do that. So if you ask me how I get that from, it's because I'm inquisitive, because I want to be able to know. I don't ever want to be in a situation where I don't do my best to try to figure out what the answer is, and I don't find inspiration in the people that have done great things. So I think that it was a point where I was like sitting around, and I was like, well, what can I do as I sit around? Oh, let me study. Let me study the people that I want to be next to. Let me study what they were thinking. Let me study how they were moving. Let me figure out the greatness in them and figure out what makes it great. I challenge people when I teach. I always tell people, after you leave here, I want you to be cursed like me. The curse that I have is I cannot enjoy anything. I can't enjoy a movie. I can't enjoy a ball game. I can't enjoy a painting. I can't enjoy a piece of art. I can't enjoy anything without trying to figure out what makes it great.
But at what point do you sit back and say, I'm going to enjoy
Like, no. So what
this
I'm saying is
position
I can't enjoy it without trying to figure
without
out.
breaking it
I
all the way
still
down?
can enjoy it, but I can't enjoy it without figuring out why I enjoy it.
So if you look at yourself and you do all the comparisons to the people that have actually walked the same walk that you're walking, doing the things that you're aspiring to do, who's the person you say that reminds me of myself?
And a person that I'm inspired by. That
Yeah,
reminds
somebody
me,
that's been there, done that,
Yeah.
and you sit back and say, man, like, this is the person.
man. You know what? Honestly, it's a lot of people. You know, I look at, I look at Jay. I look at Kanye. Pieces of Jay, pieces of Kanye, and Kobe Bryant is a person I looked at and I could see the drive that I have. And then hanging out with you, I see that we were speaking about that earlier. I see similarities in our character, in our ability, our desire.
Yeah, I agree.
Because desire is stronger than ability. Because I can't jump and touch that ceiling, but I'm going to figure out how to touch it.
All right.
Because my desire to want to reach it is stronger than my ability to actually do so. So if my desire, I look at that and I look at your desire to always push the boundaries and be great. When we wake up, if somebody sat $10 billion in my bank account today, I would still not retire. Why?
They'll be working.
Because my desire is always to push the boundary and be great and be greater and be greatest, right? And to make sure that my gift can make room for me and make space for the people that are around me. So I see that in you, and I think that we kind of click because of that. We connect because of that. We take what we do very serious. We love to have a great time, and we love to make sure that everybody around us does well.
Right.
And I think that people like us, we don't get enough credit. We don't get enough love. We always get, a lot of times we get celebrated for, we don't get celebrated for all of the greatness, but we get blamed for all of the wrong, right? So I think that is a part of it, but I think the beauty in it is still understanding, like, making things available for people that we care about. And I think that that's super important. And then reaching higher heights. You spoke to me about some yesterday that was really cool. I don't want to share it, but you just basically, it was the wisdom of knowing when to bring people where and who to bring where.
Yeah.
And then when you're around certain people, you spoke to me about that. And it was something that I was like, damn, it gave me a gem. So when I think about that, I think about situations that, and where, as you were saying that last night, I was like, damn, bro, I probably missed out on a few opportunities
like,
because I was trying to include.
You try to. I think because of where we're coming from, and then we have so much pressure on us to uplift our people, to where we miss out on so many opportunities. Where, for me, I've learned that timing has been the most important thing, as when to bring the crew, when to go solo.
Yeah.
You know, so, and I found that I benefit more from a situation when I go by myself, because the person wants me, but I'm so in tune or like loyal to my people, and I'm trying to bring everybody, and then you realize, like, man, I'm trying to bring everybody, but when I bring everybody to the table, I'm gonna get less, and we're not gonna go as far as we could possibly go.
You know what impressed me most about that conversation was that you were so in tune. You like me, right? I pay attention to people's reaction to things I say. You know what I mean? I say something, I pay attention to how they move. And you recognize that this person who was bringing you around was different when other people were with you.
Exactly.
You know how many people don't recognize that? You know how many people don't understand and recognize when people are uncomfortable and awkward, or when they're not being themselves? Because a lot of people are so self-absorbed. They can't understand how to see the changes in others in certain spaces, right? So you recognize homeboy wasn't acting like he was more open.
And you understand the why, because I'm coming with all these people with me. So, like, but that's part of the journey. You know, you start to learn every day. You start learning stuff, and you start saying, man, dang, I can see why we're held back. I can see why we're not going. So now I make a conscious effort. Like, if I got to go by myself, I'm willing to sit by myself, because It took me till I never sat in a restaurant by myself until I was in my 30s.
Really?
My whole entire life, it was always surrounded by people, my comfort zone, and it was like my shield.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got to a space to where, like, man, I can go in here by myself and I feel comfortable. So I go to a restaurant and I go to this space and I sit by myself and I feel like it's okay because now it opens the doors to me to let somebody else in.
Yeah.
Because I never let nobody in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, man, I'm going to stay in my box. I'm going to stay out the way. You know, I'm going to be out the way, but I'm going to be in the mix.
Yeah.
But now all I'm doing is blocking those opportunities.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it till I got older. And that's where I'm at now,
Yeah.
to where you sit back and you look at it like, man, sometimes you got to go by yourself.
Yeah.
And go meet the person. When somebody invites you to something,
Just pull up.
don't bring your crew.
Just pull up.
Like, and I know we always want to bring the crew, but for people out there, man, I'm telling you, sometimes when people invite you to something, they want you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, later on you can bring the crew if it matches.
Yeah.
But they want you, and you're not gonna get you're not gonna get the most out of the situation unless you're going by yourself because they didn't invite the crew.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they invited you.
And some of the most successful people have social anxiety. So they feel like, I know I have social anxiety, so sometimes I can believe that people are saying things about me when they may not actually be saying anything. You know? So a lot of times,
Like
because
paranoid.
you paranoid, you really believe that you're anxious and you're looking at people and you're like, is this person, do they like me? Are they saying? So you might get around certain people in settings who you think are up here, and then they looking like, are these people, do they like me? Are they judging me? So now that you brought your people around, instead of them being able to focus on your energy, now they worried about, well, what about homeboy? What are they gonna say about all these little things or these quirks that I have? And I think that when you said that last night, I as soon as you said it to me, I thought about different instances, and I was like, damn, that's probably why such and such didn't want to move forward, or they didn't want to keep, and why they called me and then had me do something, and I brought blah blah blah, and then I didn't get no more calls after that. Even though the event could have went great, everything could have went cool, but they was like, you might bring somebody, I don't want them to.
You wonder why people move on from you.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and like for me, that was like, but I didn't pick up on it until later in life, you know, because if you tell me, hey, I'm going to sit in a private plane and I got 14 seats, I'm going to have 15. I'm going to have 15 people sitting right there, say we can squeeze somebody in, because I want everybody to go.
Experience that.
I want everybody to experience this thing because, man, this life is a beautiful life.
Yeah.
Especially if you come from the bottom, you know, and you get a chance to see it, you say, dang, man, life is so great. You'll be amazed, and you try to go back and explain it to everybody, and it seems like it's unrealistic. And so I've always tried to bring everybody with me, and probably restricted a lot of opportunities. But, you know, those are things you learn as you get older. And for yourself, I know you've been in this game a long time. Over the years, as a songwriter, producer, things have changed. How do you keep your relevance, or what are the differences between when you first started to now, and what type of adjustments that you have to make?
Yeah. So I think the way I sonically say relevant is by observing the culture, being around, paying attention to the youth. So observation is very important. It doesn't mean I have to be in a mix with them. I would look ridiculous trying to hang around with a bunch of 19-year-olds and start talking like a bunch of kids. But what I can do is I know what's timeless and what's classic musically, and what I try to do is fit that into what's the current syncopation, a current pocket, a current groove, a current flow. But I make sure that the chorus is always timeless and the hook feels big and it has that presence. So it was like mixing Coi Leray with Celine Dion. You got to find a way to give that pattern, give that rhythm, keep it young, keep it energy, but then make sure that the top line is classic. Something that's going to work, that worked in 1980 is going to work in 90, 2000, 2010, 2020, and so on and so forth. So that's how I think I've been able to stay in the now and stay consistent, from being able to have hits on, the City Girls to being, to Beyonce, is being able to pay attention and listen and not think we have all the answers. I don't know everything. I do know what I know, though. You know what I mean?
So when you see, like, I just watch everything and I try to pay attention to it, and I'm sitting in a neutral position, so I don't have to judge. I don't have to jump on this side or that side. So I always try to get advice or insight. So when you see the older or the generation that their time may have passed, and they look at this new generation, and they're always knocking it, or they always have something to say about this generation, but this is the wave. Where do you look at that? I mean, how do you look at that and you say, okay, look, man, this is what, how do you bring both of those sides together?
I think that it's a lack of effort that people may recognize in the youth that kind of bother them. So what we have to do is figure out how do we get why do we communicate with them and show them how valuable the gift is that we have
But this stuff is working.
without offending them and without telling them, because everything can work temporarily, but a lot of us know how things can work long term. So but we have to be mature enough to say, I can't come in here and say, what y'all doing is whack. Y'all don't. What we have to do is say, bro, it's great what you're doing, but imagine if you woke up earlier. Imagine if you worked at this time. Imagine if you did this much. Imagine if you invested this much time in you. Imagine if you didn't get high all night. Imagine if you didn't do this. Look at the examples of the things like this. But if you go and say, y'all is going to do this, and y'all, how do you expect anybody to be receptive to what you have to say? So you have to befriend the people that you care about. And if you truly care about people, then you should lead with love. If your criticism is from a pure place, then it's going to feel like a brother giving game to a brother. It's always going to look like a hater if you coming at them and saying, y'all doing this, and y'all whacking, we did.
Yeah, that's how it comes across.
And but that's because a lot of it is rooted from jealousy. Especially when you see somebody thriving who's not putting in the same amount of effort that you put in, or didn't have to go through all the things you had to go through. A lot of times people can become resentful. Get that out your heart. Look at it and say, because of what the work that these people have laid, the groundwork that these people laid, it made it easier for this person to get a check. Same way it was easier for me to get certain checks because of groundwork that other people laid. So when I look at that, I say, I want to be able to advance myself in my career, and I know that I won't be sitting in the studio writing songs forever. How do I invest in myself and invest in the future so that I can make sure that I'm always being paid and my influence is always being felt and people always respecting my mind and what I have to offer the business? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so with all these new artists and everybody's like coming up with these new ways, from a technology standpoint, from a sound standpoint, how do you make sure that you are relevant, decade after decade? Because I respect anybody that's doing stuff post 2 decades, and you've been doing stuff post 2 decades, so obviously you know what you're doing. What is the method, or what is the secret, or some of the things that you do to say, I'm gonna make sure that I was cool in this decade, I'm cool in this decade, and even going forward.
Yeah. What I do is I focus on my gifts outside of just creation. So my gift is my ability to articulate what I'm feeling and what I'm thinking and try to understand what you're feeling and what you're thinking and articulate it for you in ways that you may not know how to do it for yourself. Now, in writing music, that's part of it. But if I can teach and educate a person on how to get their thoughts and emotions out, that's another one of my strong points. So how I'm able to stay relevant is I understand that the game has shifted and changed in a certain way where I'm not going to be able to exist in the same space that I existed in 20 years ago. But what I can do is I can make sure I pick my spots, and I can make sure that I get next to the future and how to develop and help the future see their way through. And if I can give a certain group of people hope and an idea on how to be great, I figured out a lane for myself in education, in musical education, and taking people under my wing and being free and open with the information that I've had. So the reason why I feel like I'm able to stay relevant is, one, I'm out the way. You don't see me everywhere. I'm not doing everything. So you don't get you're not overdosed with me, oversaturating myself in the market. What I'm able to do is stay in my space, create in my space, and build a following of people who believe in what I have to offer, and I just develop them. Over time, people started from the outside seeing the consistent efforts, the consistent work since 2015 with the We Love Music Conference, with the song crafting sessions, with the art, with the creating and the art of song concept. When they see it, it'll be a small group that turns into a larger group, and sooner or later it's going to be the masses. So we have to find the things that we're great at outside of just football, outside of just writing, outside of just producing. How do we find things that we can still enjoy or give the knowledge that we've gained from the sport, from the music, from entertainment, but how do we give it to people in a different way? That's how you do it. And you can't be the old nigga in the club. You can't be the old guy in the club. You can't.
I'm gonna be the old nigga in the club.
No. But when I say that, I mean you're not doing the same things.
Yeah,
that you were
I
doing.
get it.
So when you go into the spot, you post it up in the corner, you smoke your hookah, you have a drink. But you being in the middle of the club buying 50 bottles, it's just it would look ridiculous.
It's
you know
over.
what I mean? It's over for that.
Over.
So we got to figure out.
Now I'm being there with a different mindset.
Exactly.
Like, I'm being as the owner.
We still exist in the space, but we not existing in the same way that we were existing in when we were 20 years old.
Nah, I
gotta
get
be
exactly
smart
what
enough
you're
to
saying.
say, all right, I gotta be here because I gotta know what's going on. I can't not be here. I can't not be around young people. I can't not be on social media. I cannot be active in the culture.
But I can't try to be them.
Exactly. I can't do it the same way that they were doing it or the way I was doing it back in the day.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And that's like when I'm hearing you saying that, that's why I was able to just jump in. I'm like, cause I feel like I'm gonna be in the club, but I'm gonna be in as a position as an owner, as as a higher up or a level to where it's still motivating and inspiring people to say, look, man, I'm in the club partying, but I want to be like this guy. He owns the building, but being on the grounds, you stay in tune. And for yourself, it's like if it was a aspiring songwriter or a producer, and they're just starting out and they don't have no direction, how would you start them out?
Oh man, how would I start them off? One, I would make sure that I'm creating constantly, and I'm showcasing everything that I create constantly. So now, if I'm showcasing, and this is what I mean, if I write a great song, I'm gonna post that great song on my feed, not on my story, on my feed. I want the people to see the music that I've done. So when you look on my page, it's gonna be littered with music and art, my creation. So now when I say, yo, Edge, bro, give me a shot, check me out, and you're like, all right, I'll get to you. When they go and finally give you a shot and finally do, let me check, I'm on this flight, I got the Wi-Fi on, I got a few seconds, homeboy just see me in the airport, let me check out what he got. Now, okay, I see when I look on his page, he's consistently posting, he's consistently dedicated to his craft. That's one. So now if I have an opportunity that lends itself, that opportunity will be made available because we see you're active. The reason why I'm saying that is because there's so many talented people that are like, I don't really got no music on my page. I don't really got nothing. Bro, I don't have time to investigate. If I want to check it out, I might not be able to check my email for your stuff. I might got a lot going on. I might not want to give you my number so you can blow my phone up 50 times a day. I might not. So let me check out what you're working on. That's one. Two, what can I do and what can I offer for free? What can I give for free to get in the room? What can I offer and lend this person who doesn't necessarily on the surface need me for anything? How can I observe the needs that this person may need, the things that this person may need, right? And when I do that, I can figure out how to fit in that space that they're lacking and insert myself in a way where I am a servant, respectfully.
Right.
When I do that, I add value. And when you add value, people are like, all right, you did something great for me. What do you do?
Right.
What are you passionate about? How can I help you? And I think when people get back to that, studios are kind of like everybody's doing their own studios at home. So being at big recording studios is not. It's beginning to become a thing of the past.
Right.
But I would also suggest on the rare studios that are making themselves available and are still doing well, you need to be in there interning for free. You need to be in there sweeping some floors. You need to be around the culture. You need to be around the art. If it's somebody who's a promoter, who's a vendor, if it's somebody who's putting on tours and concerts, how can I shadow you? How can I be around? What do you need from me? What can I do? I just want to do something for free. Y'all hiring somebody, they paying it, it's a paid gig. I want to do it for free. I want to earn the pay. I just want to be around. I just want to be in a space. And when I get in that space, I'm not overbearing. I'm not annoying people every day with, like, check out my.
Right.
Just be in the place, observe, be a fly on the wall, and make sure that if your presence is missing, they're going to miss it. When you leave, they're going to miss you. Make sure that you're so valuable to the rooms that when you step away for a second, they're like, where Rico? But where you at? I need you.
Right.
Then
you brought some value.
Exactly. So now when I say, now in that time when somebody's like, yo, bro, we got an extra spot on the yacht. We about to go to Central South of France. We got an extra spot on the plane. Why don't you roll?
Right. You brought value, so
come on, man.
And people,
now you in
people
the room.
People remember
Come
value.
on, bro. And now you're in a room with greatness, and when you're in a room with greatness, you get offered opportunities to be do the work with the greatness. I'll give you an example. When I wrote Throwback for Usher on the Confessions album, and he allowed me the opportunity to tour with him. At the time, I thought, man, he could give me something. He didn't pay me to go on a tour. They didn't give me per diem. I was out there on the road. I was paying for my own clothes. I was doing what I needed to do. At the time, I was like, damn, bro, he could at least give me, bro, you giving you the opportunity to get on stage every night in front of 13 to 16 people, 16,000 people every night. He's giving you the opportunity to be, I was in the room with him having Jay-Z, him and Jay-Z having meetings. When KP was back there, when Mark Pitts, when L.A. Reid was showing up, when Clive Davis was showing up, I was in those spaces. So guess what? They kept seeing me. People don't care what you know. They don't even care who you know. They care. They want to know who knows you. You know what I mean?
Right.
Who? It ain't about people say it ain't about what you know. It's about who knows you. So when I would be on those settings, people knew me. So when opportunities arose, KP came to me and said, "Yo, Omarion, I'm about to do a solo album. He leaving B2K. Rico, you got songs for him? Boom, I'm
Every
on Omarion album."
opportunity. You ready?
Puff was like, "Yo, I got this group called B5. I seen you wrote that thing for Usher. I need a joint for my group B5. I wrote You Got Me for B5. Okay, Chris Stokes met me because of KP, and KP put me on the Omarion album. They say, "Oh, Marcus Houston got an album he working on. You got something for him?" I did, all because of you. Then I'm in those rooms because I was around and I was able
Right.
to move and maneuver properly, and people understood that he's cool. He's not annoying me. He's not blowing up my phone every day. He's not in my face. He's not making me uncomfortable. He just be around. That's Rico. So if I got an opportunity, who can I think of? Oh, I'm gonna think of Rico to come do this thing. So getting in those spaces, making people comfortable in those spaces, being consistent in those spaces, and picking your spots and understanding when to speak, when not to speak, when to ask questions, when not to ask questions, and then over time, the possibilities, the doors, and the opportunities will present themselves to you.
No, that makes sense. And taking it to like a sports um, analogy, it's about being available, availability. You know, you see, I was talking to a kid this week, and you know they're preparing for the training camps and you know the workouts. And I was telling them like, if you're not going to be available, you're not going to have the opportunity because you serve no purpose. But if you're there and you're healthy and you're available, you know, you give yourself a chance. So all those things run parallel.
Mm-hmm.
You know, on the Create Life podcast, you know, we always talk about taking a positive approach and steps far as reaching back. And one thing about this situation right here with Rico, I said, Rico, man, at some point in time, you know, I want you to come and mentor my daughter. And so happened, my daughter is an aspiring singer. And Rico said, man, anytime, let me know. I'll come up there. I'll do whatever I can. He's spending days with her. And so now we have my daughter, which is Aanna J. She has, you know, she's an R&B singer, but she's fortunate enough to have one of the best to mentor her. So with that being said, you have Aanna J here in the flesh with Rico Love. You know, Aanna, for, you know, after all that time, after all that hard work and everything you put into it, to get in the space to where, you know, the unknown space, and now you have Rico Love that's been with the Beyoncés, the Ushers, the T.I.s, everybody. You know, what does that like? Is it a shocking situation, or did it do something to you? Or do you feel like you belong?
I would say that it was definitely shocking, but I do feel like I belong. I've always felt like I belong. So
So when you say I belong, like what? Like, was there anything? Were you nervous, or were you like,
no, I was
man?
super nervous before I got here. I was so scared. I'm in a car giving myself a little pep talk. I'm like, okay, you got it. Just relax a little bit. But once I got here, we kind of got in the groove. It was a lot easier, and it's been a good experience so far.
You know, sometimes when you're in things you like really don't know, the unknown is what make you nervous. But when you got in that room and you was there with Rico and working, and you see, and like one thing I appreciate Rico, he kind of, you know, he backs the claim of like, man, the great people, they come, they don't have a clock, they just work. And Rico was like, hey, man, can I get in there early? And he stayed late. The greats stay late. They keep working. Was that something that was new to you, or did you feel it like, man, dang, this dude just continues to work?
Um, I would necessarily say that it's new to me because I knew that's usually how it goes with a lot of artists. They usually be in the studio for like hours and days on days. So I knew that's what was to be like expected coming here.
All right, Enrico, when you got a chance to meet her, what was your thoughts of, or what was the experience when you said, okay, yeah, I know you've been down this road, you've dealt with so many greats, and now you see somebody young, it's like you planned it over from the beginning. And like, what was that experience, or how was that, and how do you compare this situation to other situations you've dealt with in the past?
I believe that the way you do anything is the way you do everything. So when I go into any situation, I go into it trying to give the best that I can give. I ask a ton of questions. I'm always trying to figure out the mindset and like, how do you think? How does this make you feel? I'll throw random scenarios out there just to get an idea, a perspective. So when I'm writing, I'll say, based on this conversation, I know that she would sing this or she would say this, right? And my goal is to always, whether it's the most seasoned veteran or a new artist, is to challenge them. My goal is to challenge them, to sonically challenge them, to conceptually challenge them, and to make sure that I give them a piece of an experience or an idea or a sound that is foreign to what they normally would do. Because they're them every day. Every day you're in the studio creating for you. You're creating the stuff that you are naturally comfortable creating. So my job is to get you out of your comfort zone. How do we get you to create things outside of what's natural to you? Because my songs on your project should stand out. I want my songs to be like, I can tell that that's different. Whenever you listen to an album and Pharrell was involved, you can always tell the Pharrell songs. You'd be like, oh, that's because the album be going one way, and all of a sudden you don't have to call. You know what I mean? And you're like, what is that? Sounds totally different from the whole 8701, and so on and so forth. So my goal is to make sure that I'm disrupting sonically, and I'm challenging you and making sure that you feel comfortable, but you feel pushed. You know what I mean? If it's easy, what's the point? We got to get in there and work. You got to get in there and push outside of what's comfortable for you. Because when you're on the stage, you have to push. You have to sing. You have to perform. You have to be out here, and you have to be comfortable with challenging yourself.
So, Yana, did you feel that push? Did you feel that difference?
For sure.
What were some of the difference that you felt that you haven't felt from being in the studio for months?
So I feel like I like to stay in a very comfortable range. I like to kind of I don't like to really experiment with my voice. I kind of get a little nervous because I don't know how it's going to sound a lot of the times. So with Rico, it definitely been a lot more of a challenge getting in my head voice, and it's been a different experience, but I'm loving that it is a challenge and I'm learning from it. And now I feel like I'll be a lot more comfortable in the studio. So
yeah,
and my goal is to make sure there's no to make every artist feel like there's no ego coming from my side. Like you should feel like, with me, any artist, I want them to feel like they're in the studio with their big brother. You know what I mean? So it don't feel like as I'm sitting on this hill and you do what I tell you to do. It should feel like I want you to believe that the idea is a great idea. And if you don't believe it's a great idea, then let's do something else. And then if we give ourselves a time, because even
y'all
today,
had that situation today, right?
Today, I felt like I loved the way she was sounding on the record, but she didn't like the way she was sounding. So I could have easily sat and told her why I think it was great. I was like, okay, cool. So I wrote her a whole nother song. And then she sang the song and was comfortable and sounded great on the song, and it was comfortable for her. So that's how you have to be able to bargain. You can't go into a situation, even though in my mind I know that she sounded great on the other song.
Right.
But I can't go into a situation and make her uncomfortable and feel. So I said, I got to keep her smile. I got to keep my energy up. And I got to say, cool, let me just write another one. And I went in there and I did the work. And then she went in there and she did the work. Then after we did that, I said, all right, let's do another verse on the one from yesterday. And then I said, all right, well, now let's go back to the one that you said you didn't like. And when I played it, the whole room lit up. Like everybody in the room was like, what's this? Oh, this is the one we stopped earlier. Let's just try the verses. And then she was so comfortable on the verses at the end of the song. Now we got 3 records done that feel really good, that feel a different dynamic than what she's comfortable with. But it's also, you take the ego out of it. If an artist ever tells me I'm not feeling that, even if I don't agree with them, I can't put ego in it. I got to say, I respect the fact that this is a person that's going to have to sing this song. Regardless of how I feel about the song, she's going to have to perform this song every night. I want her to enjoy what she performs, right? Even if it becomes a massive hit, what does it mean if the artist hates the song, right? So I got to make sure that her experience is positive with me and that she's confident with what she created, but also she's proud of what she created and feels like it speaks for her. So sometimes we can be in our own head. Usher didn't like Yeah. Usher didn't like You Make Me Wanna. You know what I mean?
And those turn out to be big
Yeah,
hits.
but he loves them now, right? So you got to be able to understand the dynamics, understand psychology, and understand approach. My approach is always with love, with compassion, and with generosity. I'm generous because I want to make sure that you know I'm here to serve. I'm here to make sure that you sound great. I'm here to make sure that we create some magic, but also I'm catering to you. That's my job as a producer. I'm here to cater to you, and make sure that you're comfortable and we get out what you're feeling and thinking. She'll tell you I asked you a ton of questions today and yesterday. Just random questions about what would you rather have, this or this? What would you think about this? How do you feel? And I'm always asking questions. It's not about me. Not one time, and I hope you can agree. Not one time in our sessions I'm sitting there talking about myself. You know what I mean? I'm more so inquisitive. What do you think about this? How does this make you feel? What do you think about this? Hey, did you see this movie? Oh, did you go to this thing? Do you know about?
Right.
How do you feel about your dad? How do you feel about this? Like all these questions.
How did she feel about
get-
that?
I even asked her. I said, "Do you understand like who your dad is? When did you realize who your dad is? Well, you know all those different things to kind of figure out the mindset and making a person feel like this experience is about you. You know, the way you do anything is the way you do everything.
So, Yana, after going through that one song situation, did you understand what he was trying to get to?
Yeah.
And did you start feeling?
I started to feel a lot more confident in myself once we kind of got in the groove of things. I feel like because it was the first song, I was definitely like in my head a lot more, but I got a lot more confident within myself.
So I think that's where growth comes from. So right now you're growing, and that was the purpose of all this. Like me and Rico talked about this for months. We talked about the overall goal. Wherever the song goes or wherever the music goes, it goes. But it's gonna make you a better person. Do you feel like you're a better singer
Yes,
now?
for sure.
And in which ways do you feel like you're a better singer right now?
I just feel more confident in myself. Like I feel like I've always just been in my head. I always think like, oh, people are gonna think this sounds really bad, or I'm scared my voice is gonna crack, and it's just not gonna sound good when But I just feel a lot more happier. The fact that I am kind of getting out that low range that I like to stay within. So I know that I have the range. It's just I didn't always believe in that.
All right, so now you believe in it.
Yes, I definitely believe in it.
And it's a process. She's gonna be believing it more and more. You might wake up some days and hear it and be cringe like, oh, no. And then you'll dive deeper into it and push yourself harder. And it's a challenge. But the greatest part about any level of creativity is understanding that each day changes. Each day is different. Each day I can explore different things about myself, and each day I have the right to change my mind. That's okay. And I'm so confident in that. And I think that is the blessing of creating, is to know that even if we don't agree today, there's a possibility that tomorrow you'll listen and be like, all right, I get it. And sometimes you'll be around somebody that you absolutely trust and love, and they'll give you a perspective that'll make you see it differently. Doesn't mean it makes you change your mind, but at least you'll look at it from a different perspective. And people have to be free, and people have to give people the freedom to express the things that they feel without taking offense to it. And that's something that I think is one of my strongest attributes as a creative, is not sitting in my feelings about somebody, I don't know.
Well, I think sometimes it's the delivery.
Yeah.
Because some people, they don't
know how to
receive things.
they don't know how to.
That's one thing I struggle with, because it's just straight to it.
Yeah.
And the intent is to help you, but the delivery, I think you do a great job of delivery. And I think that's one thing that people can pick up if they want to try to reach.
No matter how good you are as a songwriter, no matter how talented you are as a vocal producer or a producer, if people don't want to be in a room with you, you won't get nothing done. So you got to make sure that people are safe and feel safe. They feel safe enough to say, I don't know about this. I don't feel this. And when they say it, they don't get any pushback from me like, what? Or my energy don't change towards them, or I don't start acting funny or not. You know what I mean? Because people do. I've been in sessions where somebody will say to an artist like, or artist will say, I don't know about this. And now the producer who's like, feel like, man, what you telling me? I know more than you. So now his energy is off. She's off. Next day, she don't want to come back. She don't want to finish the songs. And they missed out on the opportunity to build. So it has to be a situation where somebody says, even if I don't agree with you, I respect the fact that you have feelings and you have a perspective, and I respect that. So more than anything, if it means that we have to stop this and do something else, I'm okay with that. If it means that what if we would have never came back to that song? I would have still been okay with that. Because I would have just said, like, I got to dig deeper and make sure that I push myself as a writer to make sure I give her something. The way you do anything is the way you do everything. The way I treat Beyonce is the way I treat the brand new artist who never had a successful record. The way I treat Usher is going to be the same way I treat a brand new artist that never had a successful record yet. Because I know that it's potential in all of those situations to be great.
All right, no, that's dope. And coming to an end on this Create Life podcast, I asked him off the record because I used to always see him put TTLO. I was like, man. So I had to text him personally because I'm like, man, I don't even know what this means because he hashtag it every time. So can you give us a little background on TTLO?
TTLO. So years ago, my friend Mams Taylor, he owned a club in Beverly Hills called Area, and I used to go there every night because he was the owner. So I'd go every night, have a good time, and there was this song by Pink Floyd called The Wall that would play. And every night they play this song, and the lights would go crazy when they say, "Hey, teacher, leave those kids alone," and all the lights would go on in the club. And I would just say, "Turn the lights on," to myself because I knew that the lights was gonna come on. So one day I was in the studio and I said it as the intro of the song, and my man Mams was like, "You should say that. That's dope. You should say that in all the songs you write."
So that's where it comes from.
So I started saying it, and I remember it was crazy because one of the biggest publishers in the world, like somebody who I love, but I found out he said to somebody, "Tell Rico to stop saying that turn the lights on shit in all his songs, man. Nobody gonna buy them songs." And then
that's what I was like, man. I hear it all the time, but now anytime I see it, but no, that was great, man. Now we got Rico Love, we got an aspiring artist, Aanna J, his mentee, somebody we're going to see in the future because she's not going anywhere and we're going to continue working. And so we appreciate everybody for viewing Create Life Lifestyle, and we'll be back over and over. Rico will be back. Aanna will be back because this is an ongoing thing. It's about positivity, motivating, inspiring, uplifting people. Everything we do is to push the culture forward.